Well, just like Ryle there, it looked like he was starting to lose control of the situation. I think many of us can echo that. Over the last 18 months, we have all felt like we've lost a bit of control, lost our focus on the future, and certainly have lost a little bit of hope. Well, we're about to chat to our human potential and parenting expert, Nikki Bush, who's hopefully going to give us some practical tips, some ideas to help us regain a sense of control and a sense of hope. And it's with a great hope that I say good morning to you this morning. Nikki Bush, how are you?
Good morning, Graham. I'm well, thank you.
So good to be connecting with you. I've loved our chats of late, really important conversations that we're having, and we're kind of following a trajectory, and I think this is a good point that we're at now, that we can start talking about regaining control. But maybe a good place to start would be why we feel like we have lost our control so much at the moment. Why is there this sense of this loss of control and hopelessness?
Well, I think we've just had so long, 20 months now, of not being able to see the future.
Yeah.
And when you can't see the future, you do feel out of control. And as human beings, we just love to have control of every part of our lives. And I think one of the big things that COVID has taught us is that control is actually an illusion. And our fundamental human need, Graham, is for stability. But the interesting thing about what we're going to talk about today is that while we need stability for predictability and security, we also need novelty and newness for hope. And that's one of the paradoxes of actually being human, is that we live with both. We so want to control everything, but we also need surprise and excitement in our lives to actually keep us moving forward.
Yep, and we need that sense of wonder and sometimes that fear to drive us and motivate us. That being said, we want to go through that process with a sense of control. So we might not be able to achieve control ultimately, but at least a sense of being in control of our emotions and what's going on around us. So how practically can we start to take back that sense of control?
Well, in very tiny ways. And I think, we're leading up to that time of the year, that sort of crazy Christmas time. And if you're at work, of course, there's lots of deliverables right now. So it's a really busy time. And there are some basic things that we sometimes forget when we get really busy. And that first thing is routine. So keeping that daily routine of getting up at the same time, going to bed at the same time, keeping regular meal times. It's amazing, these circadian rhythms of ours as human beings are truly important. It's the order of things. And I speak about this often when it's, we're talking about parenting and children, but it applies exactly the same to adults as well. And a bit of exercise will not go amiss. Very, very important. And what you eat. So choosing what you eat rather than just, picking up whatever you can, which is often so easy when you're busy. So those are the three things where control is important. And then what I'd like to say to our viewers today is we feel quite under threat at the moment. Take a piece of paper, fold it in half lengthways, and go and list all the things that are making you feel out of control, that are perhaps threatening you at the moment. And when they stay inside our heads, the threats get this big.
Sure.
But when we actually write them down and get them out of our heads, we actually shrink them and diffuse some of that threatening energy. So on the one side of the page, you're putting the threats down, and anything, don't judge it. And then on the right-hand side of the page, that's the action column. And there, if you can think of what choice you're going to make or what is the action you need to take to get rid of this threat in your life, then write it down. If you don't know what to write down, it's okay. You've written the threat down, and it's amazing. Your brain is much cleverer than you give it credit for. If you've written down the threats, then your brain will get going on the solutions. And the next time you look at that piece of paper, even if it's only in a week's time, I promise you, most of the time, the solution will appear.
Yep, that subconscious is amazing. So we can make some choices, and those choices are in our control. Let's talk about the emotional side of this. Hope. What is hope? What does hope actually mean in practical terms?
So, hope is really about being able to look into the future, which we find really hard to do right now. So, we've got to do it in tiny, small ways. Hope is about progress. Hope is about, think of it for this conversation in terms of newness and novelty. And the brain loves newness and novelty because then it can connect to something that is beyond our current little reality. And so when we talk about newness, it could be as basic, Graham, as clearing out your desk, believe it or not. And I'm a huge fan of Marie Kondo, the KonMari method of clearing out your clutter and holding on to things that only give you joy. And right now you don't have time for a spring clean, but what you can do is look at your desk and put everything together that is from the past that you don't need right now, and just put it in a box or put it in an envelope so that you're only dealing with what's now, and maybe just go and buy one new plant for your desk just to refresh where you are right now and bring in some fresh energy. I've got lots more, but I think we probably need to go to a break right now.
Yep, you've given us more than enough to chew on right now. What I'd like you to start thinking about, and maybe that's the next step in this journey, this trajectory, is from hope to our sense of purpose and how we connect that sense of hope and control and looking into the future with a sense of purpose. We're going to continue this conversation with Nikki Bush in just a moment. Please stay with us.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. Yes, you're live with Expresso as we continue our conversation with our human potential and parenting expert, Nikki Bush, who is talking about this morning our sense of hope and control and how that sense of hope is connected to a sense of purpose. So much insight shared already, and Nikki's back with us to share more. Nikki, I'm going to start there with where we left off, with this connection between hope and purpose, because we don't just want to be treading water and existing and in survival mode. We want to feel like we're working towards the bigger goal, the bigger picture. What is that connection between hope and purpose? How does one lead to the other?
Okay, so I'd like to actually shift the wording from purpose to being purposeful.
Nice.
When we can't see too far into the future, we actually have to be more in the present, taking every single day as it comes. And the interesting thing about going through chaos, when things don't unfold in the way you expect them to unfold, is that we have the sense of losing control, and sometimes we lose our focus. And so I'd like to share some things around how do we keep our focus at this time? How do we stay on track? And as I was saying, you know, with many people who are working at the moment, this is a time for delivery. If you think about your children, this is the time for delivery. There are exams, there are tests, there are, you know, report cards that are coming up soon. So how do we actually hold our focus with so many challenges surrounding us and trying to find solutions, yet we've got all these external circumstances and maybe fear that there's a fourth wave coming, all those sorts of things. And I can tell you that I've been nursing both my parents through COVID over the last 3 weeks.
Sure.
And it's been very tricky to keep my focus on work. But we do need to do little fundamental things like, when we are trying to focus, switch off your cell phone, switch off your email alerts for a period of time so that you can get a little chunk of work done, which leads to a sense of satisfaction, which leads to a sense of feeling like your day has been purposeful. So it's about actually micromanaging yourself through the day, through each hour of the day. And the thing is, when you get through a day, you can go, I did that. I survived. This too shall pass. So that completion of tasks is actually really important. And sometimes we need some accountability partner where you're actually going to just check in with a buddy at the end of the day and say, this is what I managed to get through. Or you check in at the beginning of the day and you say, this is what's important for today. And at the end of the day, you check in with each other again and you say, this is what I managed today. Because sometimes we get a little lost in the chaos, and just having that accountability partner can help us to to get through the day and feel like we did something. And we've also got to narrow down the number of things that we're actually working on or involved with, and deciding truthfully if we really need to be doing certain things, or if we can take some things off our list, because we can be drowning in minute detail, you see, when we feel out of control. And I'm the list queen. I have a long list, but you never get through the whole list. And you've got to really be a little bit more discerning about how much you take on during the day.
That's why I have two lists. I have like the immediate list and then the bigger picture list of things we want to achieve. Okay, so you've kind of connected in some way with the idea of it's okay not to be okay, because sometimes the external influences and that sense of control, it's not just in our head, it's actually things that are happening to us, and perfectly justifiable that you do feel like you're losing some control. In the life cycle where I'm at now, I would imagine a lot of people are at in this journey, this 20-month journey that we've been on now. I want to be inspired again. I want to feel excited about work again. I want to start feeling like I'm an optimistic person, not a pessimistic person. All of these things that have become so heightened over the last kind of stanza of our lives. How do we do that? How do we inject a bit of novelty, a bit of newness, a bit of inspiration back into our lives? No pressure.
But very importantly right now, I think we forget that for creativity, for inspiration, for critical problem solving, we actually need a rich bank of visual imagery. And right now, because we've been stuck in the four walls of our home offices and we haven't been traveling, we're not feeding this pond, we're not stocking the pond and filling the well. So this is probably the most critical thing that you need to do, that you can control, is go out to an art gallery. Even if you don't like the art, it doesn't matter. It stimulates you. Find a new place to go for a walk or a cycle. Go to a beach you've never been to before. Go and eat in a restaurant from a different country that you've never tried before. Those are things that will spark joy for you, that will spark inspiration, and you'll be amazed at how that will energize you in terms of feeling hopeful and purposeful again in life, like there's some meaning in life again. So it's about really refreshing yourself for this last quarter in unexpected ways. So go and try and keep the routine for control and stability, but within the routine, do something different, even just, Graham, finding a shopping center you've never shopped at before. You will be amazed at how that will make you think differently and feel differently. It doesn't have to be expensive. It's just about thinking a little bit outside of the box.
I really recommend getting outdoors. It's amazing how just a little bit of connection to nature really does inspire and lighten the spirit. Oh, Nikki, thank you so much. I know viewers can get hold of your new book, Future Proof Yourself, at nikkibush.com, and I really suggest that people do connect with you. As always, an absolute pleasure and so helpful and so good to connect with you. Thank you so much, Nix.
Thanks so much, Graham.
That is our good friend and human potential and parenting expert, and she is one of the best in the biz, Nikki Bush. And if you want to learn more about her work and to access her amazing free, and I stress the word free, resources to help you on your journey, especially if something has sparked in you today, you can visit Nikki's website. That's nikkibush.com, and I suggest you do.